Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Ethan Ortiz, and I'll be the presenter for this Setting Good Cyber Habits live stream. I made this primarily for my friends, family, and colleagues. To you, I send my hellos. To random folks who discovered this on YouTube, welcome to my opinions on improving your privacy and security online. I decided to put this together since so many people are working from home and maybe they are not benefiting from the layers of security that their employers used to provide. Um, so you're left to your own devices to secure yourself. I've been working in cybersecurity from my home office for the last 16 plus years, and I'm going to share some of my tips on reducing your exposure to bad things online. Bad things like malware, scams, and theft of security. Each for different reasons, and I'll go over that. For those not familiar with personal VPNs, I'll talk about that. And backup regiments, how to go about doing those, and some tips on what I do, and maybe you can learn from what I've done. Passwords, how to get creative with passwords, so that you don't use the same password everywhere. And some email tips on things to look for, and scam awareness. This is going to cover everything from web to email to even phone scams that those phone calls you get at home. You may already know a lot of these scams, but I'll share some uh, tips on maybe things you can share with other family members that are not as technically savvy as you. For those family members of mine on this that are watching this, uh, this is I'll take it easy, but this will answer some of the questions you've been asking me. My opinions. Okay, so this entire presentation is solely my 2 cents. Use at your own risk. I'm not providing any guarantees. Security is so fluid, so dynamic. There is no cure-all. So uh, these are just tips to help reduce your exposure surface. And I like to use the analogy of the dartboard. If you are a dartboard and you have no security and bad cyber hygiene, then you're a very large dartboard, and the scammers and bad guys can easily throw a dart and get a bullseye. So what you want to do is reduce your exposure, your surface, and reduce the exposure surface to be so small. Your dartboard is so small, it just makes it harder for the bad guys to hit you. Obviously, it's not impossible to when you're confronting a highly skilled dart thrower, but if you reduce your dart surface area, you're less likely to get hit. And then the risk tolerances. I get into a lot of debates with my friends, colleagues, former coworkers about different risk tolerance levels. My risk tolerance is very low. I hate taking unnecessary risk. I'll go the extra mile to not expose myself to threats, but it's a constant struggle, and I hope you join me in that struggle. I hope you join me in being just a bit more cautious after this presentation. I'm going to use a bunch of analogies in this presentation. Anti-malware are kind of like computer vaccines. The anti-malware virus definitions are kind of like vaccines for known threats. Web browsers are your eyes and ears to the web, so make sure you protect those, protect your hearing, and protect your eyes. And I guess you could also think of them as your hands to the web. And so you want to practice safe computing there as well. VPN. Your VPN can be thought of as a private road to the internet, where usually you're not using a VPN and you're just um, traveling on the open roads, and everybody can see you. Everyone can see you leaving your house when you leave the computer and get on the information highway. With a VPN, your leaving of the home at least can be obscured, and your connections to websites are then further secured because the VPN will terminate closer to your destination. Again, it's not a fix all, it's not an absolute security thing, but at least it's one of the layers that you can add to make yourself safer online, especially when you're using somebody else's Wi Fi. Backups. I like to think of backups kind of like clones. If you're a sci-fi movie watcher, just think of your favorite movie where The protagonist is injured and they just revive them with their clone. I like thinking of the show Altered Carbon, where the person gets hurt. They just take his chip out of their skull and insert it into a new clone, and they're back and running. They might have lost some memories, but they didn't lose all of them. And so backups for your computer are kind of like keeping a clone. So make your clones often. Passwords are your keys to your digital self, obviously, and you want to protect that so that other folks can't get access to your stuff. So never share that with anyone. Email, it's just this is really old school. It's just your mailbox for good and bad virtual letters. You can get anything in the mail, right? Anything from uh, you know food to some really bad stuff. I want to say, and then scam awareness. I'm going to cover everything from the type of web scams and how to kind of minimize that, and the types of phone scams that are out there that you can share with family members. All right, so let's start with oh, one more thing. Put a URL at the bottom for my presentation from 4 years ago. I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking advantage of the current situation. I've actually been presenting on thinking like an epidemiologist to combat digital diseases for many years. This was just one of the presentations I did 4 years ago. So unless I had a crystal ball, I didn't just make that up. So please take a look at that link if you're interested in my ideas on fighting digital diseases. And the most important weapon against malware is your behavior. Just because you have anti-malware software doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want. Um, and I like to use the analogy of just because the invention of antibacterials came out doesn't mean you should just go get dirty like crazy. So it's just another layer of protection. So you are the first layer. So your behavior counts, and you should get some type of protection on your computer, um, whether it's AVG, Not32, Malwarebytes, whatever. If you can't get any of those, at least have Defender turned on. But again, your behavior is number one. Okay, let me get into browsers and how I use browsers, and hopefully you'll do what I do. Um, so first of all, I separate my browsers into different functions. So I use Google Chrome to as my open windows, and here's a kind of a picture of that's me, like me in my house using Chrome, and the eyeball would be the website that I'm visiting, or the service provider or content provider, whatever, someone that's providing some kind of service. Well, they can see pretty much everything: my IP address, the cookies they store on my browser. This is the browser I use for online banking, for um, um, going to the trusted sites that have something to do with either money or personal information. Like when I'm sure everybody's getting their census documents, so I'll use the Google Chrome. I did use the Google Chrome to go to the census site and fill it out, just to avoid any issues with blockers that I might have installed in my Firefox. So in Firefox, I have a bunch of plugins. Two of the most important ones are Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin, which I'll actually show in just a minute. And I put little tiny blinds on the windows to indicate that, yeah, using Firefox with plugins doesn't make you completely invisible, but it makes you more obscure. Yeah, see the eyeball right there is a little closed. They can see less. So don't give up all your information. You're giving up just a bit, making it a little bit harder for them to track you, a little bit harder for them to kind of harvest your information. And then for those situations where I need to research something uh, very either embarrassing or doing competitive intelligence gathering, if your job requires that you investigate companies for acquisitions, or if you have a medical condition that you want to look up information on but don't want uh, the websites, the the advertisers to bombard you with ads on that topic. I'll use one kind of serious, but yet some folks might find funny. It's like, yeah, you look up hemorrhoid cream using Chrome. Well, for the next few weeks, you might get advertisements for hemorrhoid cream, or if you look up something to do with cancer. I mean, you're trying to keep it private from family, something more serious, and you don't want family to know that you're concerned about your health, and you don't want them coming over and seeing pop-ups or little ads coming up for the best cancer treatment nearby, which would kind of tip your hand, and they'll know that you're concerned about that. So that's where I use Tor. The Tor browser will allow me to visit these sites and keep my privacy and anonymity to a maximum. But keep in mind, these are not, perfect. None of this is perfect. They're just levels, right? They're just levels of security, levels of prevention, levels of precaution, and in the order of escalation. So from Chrome to Tor, it kind of goes from the most open to the least open. And if there's any questions, please pop them into the chat room. I'm not able to see anything else. Okay, so I have to get closer to the microphone. Thank you. All right, so here's some of the download locations. So you have Google Chrome, of course, Firefox, and one less known one to folks out there is Tor Project. So let's take a visit over there. So let's share my screen here, and if you can see that, let's go to torproject.org. And all you'd have to do is download here and then run the install. So you just click pick your operating system, download for your operating system, and then I'll just go ahead and launch Tor. And let me just move that over to this screen. So what's basically doing is connecting to this onion network where it bounces your connections through many different layers to make you more anonymous. And it's obviously not the fastest thing in the world. You're not going to be watching Netflix over this thing, but if you're looking for very personal information, you can look it up here. So cancer. So right now, this web browser, this is Tor browser, is jumping through many different locations. As a matter of fact, if you go to a site that kind of adapts to your location, like Google, I don't know where this connection is coming out from, but if it's coming out of France, then Google will adapt to that and think that you're in France. Whoop, whoop. Oh, don't want that right now. This one's, so I'm jumping out of somewhere with English. But let's see, what is my IP? Yeah, so this is because I'm using Tor. Some of the sites know that you're trying to hide yourself, so they want you to prove that you are who you say you are. So that's just one of the downsides of using Tor. They're trying to really track you. So if you just look up what you need, be a little patient, you will be able to maintain your privacy. So there are some obstacles to keeping your privacy, but I think they're well worth it. So I'll let you guys mess around with that. But basically, it's as simple as that. You go to torproject.org, download it, and run it, and now you can look up your things that you don't want to be embarrassed about. I'll tell another story. I'll tell another story about I visited a friend once that let me use his Wi-Fi, and I started getting advertisements for weapons and body armor and stuff like that. And so I knew that whoever was using that Wi-Fi was looking that stuff up. So you don't want folks to visit your house and end up seeing advertisements for your personal stuff. So if it's really critical, use the vertical blinds, Firefox, or go all the way with Tor. Okay. Here's a nice little thing to test out. Um, Panopticlick. So if I actually go to this site, let me actually bring that up over here. I'm going to use. Let me stop this one. Sorry. Let me use Firefox, and I'm going to load Firefox and go to panopticlick.eff.org, and hopefully everybody can see that. Let me confirm that everybody is seeing that. Okay, cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit test me. And Panopticlick is going to check my connection going to them and see if I'm taking some precautions for avoiding being tracked. So is your browser blocking tracking ads? Yes. Is your browser blocking invisible trackers? Yes. So there's a lot of protection on here because I have these two plugins installed, Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin. If I go to the same site using a different browser, so let's say I use Google Chrome, let me bring that over, and I go to the same Panopticlick and hit test me. And feel free to share this just to show folks that you know what sites, what kind of protection they have on their browsers. Let's give it a second. And no. So you see, this browser is completely wide open. Okay, let's go back to this presentation. And let's move on. All right. So here's a recap. Google Chrome, no privacy plugins installed, only used for banking and highly critical stuff, where you feel like you have to share your information to get the job done, and you're willing to make that sacrifice. Mozilla Firefox, install Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin, and you would do that in the browser. You would just go to add-ons and search for Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin. All right. Okay, I got ahead of myself and demoed some of the browser already. So let's take a look at adding the Privacy Badger piece. So you go here to the three lines, go to add-ons, and then I already have it installed, but up here you could do Privacy Badger, search. It'll take you to the Mozilla site, and then you would click on Privacy Badger and enable it. I have it enabled, of course, but here that's how you would install Privacy Badger on Firefox. And you would do the same thing for uBlock Origin. Just make sure you pick the right one. You want this one. Okay. You can see it's Raymond Hill, and the number of users are very high. All right. And now VPNs. There's either two kind of the ones I respect. I personally use private internet access, and I'll actually show you kind of the difference between using private internet access and not. I'm going to go ahead and test using what is my IP address. So I'm going to load that up. I am currently using a VPN, and the VPN is connected through Chicago. I don't live in Chicago. I'm going to bring up my VPN, and I'm going to switch it to Nevada. So every time I visit a website, they're going to think I'm in Las Vegas. Okay, or you can make it think you're in Japan or Hong Kong, wherever you want. But it kind of minimizes the information you're giving away. Now, keep in mind, I've gotten a few comments about this one. That when you're looking for your local pizza joint, if you're VPN'd through Las Vegas, it's not going to help you find your local pizza joint by just typing pizza nearby. You would have to specify pizza near, and the area in Philadelphia or, wherever you're located. And yeah, so that gives you some information about VPNs. Let me give you a picture of the different protection points. So here you are on the left, surfing online. That's your wireless router, or maybe it's your neighbors who's sharing with you under these conditions, or a local Wi-Fi at the Starbucks. So this connection here is vulnerable, all right? Because there could be a bad guy looking at your connection or pretending to be the Wi-Fi to capture your connection. And then you also have the websites over here watching you connect to their sites. They're putting tracking cookies on your browser and so on. So what can we do? So we can use something like private internet access. And when you create that VPN connection, that's the first step in killing this eavesdropper. Your exposure is now less because you're protecting this connection between your laptop and the VPN provider. Now, your connection is still going to be open or clear between the VPN. Actually, let me see if I can. Yeah, right here, where you see the glow. Between here and here, it's still going to be open. That's where you use HTTPS, and that'll protect this connection here. And then with Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin, it helps you with this eyeball over here that's monitoring your stuff. Make it harder for them to track you. So you put in Privacy Badger and uBlock Origin, and that makes the people watching sad. Uh, all right, and now next, backups. So yeah, I used an old image, but you really need to make backups. These are your clones, and you have to decide, where do you keep your clones? Do you keep them in the cloud or local? If you choose to do it in the cloud, the cloud may not be available when you need it, or the connection might not be as fast as you need it to restore. So you have to really decide whether or not you need it really fast, or you want to keep it offsite in case the house burns down or something. Uh, all right, the cloud. So remember that the cloud is just someone else's computer. Always remember that it's just somebody else's computer. So when you store your data up there, somebody else is housing it for you. So with that in mind, I don't use the cloud for any backups. But it's again, risk tolerance levels are different to different people. So if it's extremely important to have data at a moment's notice, consider a local backup. If it's not very critical data and you just don't care where it's stored, then go ahead and use the cloud. But I myself don't go down that route. But just pick the provider you trust, or Apple iCloud or Google Drive or Carbonite, whatever. Pick your favorite. I, on the other hand, like to have a local backup because it's faster and I feel safe. I feel that it's safer. No one else has access to it. At a minimum, you can take the drag and drop backup approach, where you literally just grab a folder and drag it over. And this is the absolute minimum. But a slightly better approach would be to use some kind of tool that automatically does this for you. Now, with the dragging and dropping, you should pick a folder. Like I use my docs folder, so I can drag that entire structure over with all my stuff in it. So just try not to create too many folders all over the place. All right, and this is a built-in tool in Windows 7 and Windows 10. Funny thing is, in Windows 10, you have to actually use the tool for Windows 7 in it. But you can go into System and Security, Backup and Restore, and backup to a local drive. So by local drive, I mean a USB external drive. You plug it in, you run your backup, and you disconnect it. There's a reason for that, right? So if you leave your drives connected all the time, then they're not really emergency backups. They're just local storage. One other kind of idea that you might want to copy is the local backup rotation. So and your rotations will vary. So my rotations are about a year apart for a lot of data, for the big data, and then about a month apart for the absolute critical stuff like this presentation. I did not want to lose it, yet last night. So I back it up to a USB stick and put it off to the side in case I drop the laptop, in case something happens. So you would do backups, the backup schedules depending on your the criticality of your data. So let me show you kind of an idea here. So you would have two drives and you would just rotate them. So the most you would lose is 1 month's worth of data. Again, that depends on how critical the data is. And then every like 2 years or so, I take one drive and give it to a family member to store, just in case, because I want to keep those baby pictures and the baby videos. Which, if I lose a year's worth of pictures, that's okay. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to lose all of it. I don't want to lose those old memories. And don't make this mistake. Don't leave your backup drive plugged in. If you get ransomware on the laptop, the ransomware is going to also attack the USB drive, and now your backup's worthless. So don't do that. Okay? Passwords. So there are so many different opinions on the use of passwords. My opinion is I'm going to store them locally. I want to actually write them down, which is contrary to what other folks say. Some of my friends, colleagues, actually use password managers. I actually use kind of a very paranoid password manager. It's a piece of hardware called Multipass, MOOLTIPASS, but that's a hardware password storage, which is not um, something most people want to do. But I also store them on a piece of paper in a folder, sealed in a safe, and those are for like really critical things like my bank accounts. And everything else I store in my multi-pass. But some tips on how to store your passwords in the clear. So if by for some reason someone still opens that my safe and gets my envelope, I've added salt to it. And so this could be something you can add to your password collection, and you store it in an envelope, maybe not in a safe, maybe somewhere just hidden near you, and you just change the passwords a little bit. And I'll show you what I mean um, with a visual. Never use the same password across services. If you use the same password for Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Twitter, if any of those four get compromised and the passwords leak, then the bad guys will use your password from Google, and they'll try to log into Microsoft. They'll try to log into Facebook, and they'll try to log into Twitter, and they'll get in. But if you use different passwords, you lose 1 out of 4. All right, so it lowers your exposure. Let me talk about adding some salt to your paper passwords. So let's say your password is that. Then get creative. Add or subtract some numbers. Maybe you add a +2 salt where you write down this password, the %1 eats veggies, #5, but in your head you know that everything is rotated by 2, or maybe even rotate the letters. But this is a very simple example. So you write this one down, but if somebody finds it, they won't know that it's actually this one. Obviously, you want to get very creative, because now that I've shown this, other folks might know and copy it and to break your password. So if your kids are watching this with you, or other family members, then don't use this exact method. Get creative. You can also add numbers to the front or back. So here's the salt is the year 1945. So take the same password, but just add 19 and 45. None of these will stop a determined adversary. Somebody who knows how some programming can obviously write some programs to just start bombarding your password with different numbers and eventually get it. But what this will do is buy you time. So when you notice that your envelope's missing, or you get a notice that your account was compromised, or the provider that's serving you was compromised, you have time to go change the password. Another thing that is kind of an old school way to do passwords is to not write down the password, but give yourself the clue. So you might write down in your envelope "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers plus Cousin Vivian's birthday, and so then you would have the lyrics of the song. Take the first letters, and that would make the password with the birthday at the end. Make sense? Security questions when you're being asked to give very personal information on websites, when legally possible, lie. So when they say what's your name of the first dog, don't actually give them your first dog's name. This information will inevitably end up being used somewhere else um, that you didn't intend. So I make stuff up. And none of these are my real answers. I'm just giving an example. But name of first dog, Alien Queen. My first car was a DeLorean, and so on. And then I write these down. Um, Again, it minimizes the online threat. If somebody out there hacks my Twitch account or my YouTube account, um, if they get a security question somewhere, they won't know these. Um, Email, changing your email behavior a little bit. Make sure that auto load images is disabled. Don't click on links directly in the email. So if you see a link that looks important and you have to absolutely positively click on it, don't. So you can always open up your browser yourself and go to the site itself. If you get a refund announcement or a invalid invoice or whatever, and it says click here to get your money back, don't. Just please don't. You can get in the habit of hovering your mouse without clicking on it. You can just hover your mouse over a link, and then on the bottom left hand side, you can see, or sometimes the pop up will pop up and show you the true link. But get in the habit of not clicking the links directly unless you absolutely trust it. And then one of the most important rules that I've learned is stepping away from email. If you get angry, sad, if happy, greedy, whatever, just take a step away. It's most likely something that you'll regret if you click it or respond too quickly. And then beware of emails that appeal to the following. Okay, I kind of slightly touched on it already, but if you have a sudden fear of the unknown or a feeling of being left behind socially, like, oh, everybody else is doing, look what the Kardashians are doing, don't be the last one, they were smart enough to do it, why haven't you, that kind of thing. Take a breather. um, don't fear that you're going to miss out on an opportunity. If you get an email or even a pop-up or some kind of web ad that says, "Look what so and so is doing," don't be the last one, and that kind of triggers that fear of missing out. Then lust, of course, very popular one. Sites that are advertising, mail order brides and uh, that kind of thing. And then greed, get free money. That's not a usual thing to get free money unsolicited via email. So please be wary of the greed aspect. Jealousy, so and so is doing it and you are not able to because you don't have enough money. So be careful if you feel jealousy, don't click on it. And then voyeurism, so and so is doing X. Oh my, that kind of stuff. Please control yourself. Don't click on those things. They're hacking you. They're hacking your brain. So don't let them hack your brain. And the last piece we're going to go through is a scam awareness. Okay. And for this one, I love watching these videos. Is the little, there it is. So if you go on YouTube and put in Jim Browning, this guy is amazing. He really gets to show you what's happening behind the scenes at a scammer's facility and how they scam people. And just know that you're not, invulnerable to scam. So you have to be eternally vigilant. So let's go over some of the big ones, headlines that you should keep, or ideas that you should keep in mind. No one will proactively call you about your computer security. And share this with family and friends. You're not going to get some crazy email, voice call, or email saying, we've been looking out for you and your computer's infected. your computer, if it pops up a message and says your computer's infected, da da da, call this number. Why would you trust that number on the page? Don't. It's a scam. Okay. Um, who's going to call you to give you a refund? What was the last time a major retailer actually called you to say, we're going out of business, so we have to give you your money back? Or you paid too much for that sofa, we're going to give you free money. All you have to do is give us access to your computer, your bank account, and your social security number, blah, 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 blah. No, it's a scam. And one of the ways that you can tell very quickly um, is that they'll ask for certain types of information. They called you to give you something or to protect you, but then they start asking you questions to validate your identity. Well, if they called you, they should know everything about you if you have an established business relationship, right? So why are they asking for your social security number? Why are they asking for your address? Why are they asking for a phone number, driver's license, how much you make, what you do for a living? Don't call these numbers, okay? Um, and next, don't provide remote access to your computer. It's something I've told my family members and friends for years, and a couple have still fallen for it. Where somebody calls, they provide remote access because they're helping. Don't do that. You have to absolutely trust the person on the other line, and yeah, just don't do it. Just don't give remote access, especially if you didn't make the call uh, yourself. This is one of the biggest red flags. If anyone asks for gift cards as payment, uh, there's really no other reason than a scam. Okay, no one's gonna ask you to pay with a gift card for your service or for protecting your machine or to pay off your IRS bill. You have to send Amazon gift cards. Come on, it's ridiculous. If anyone asks for a money transfer as payment for a bill or debt, stop. Money transfers are the worst. When you go to the bank and try to do a money transfer, you'll see the fine print. It's not reversible. Once it's gone, it's gone. So please keep an ear out for this type of question, um, and then never give out your password. Um, if somebody asks for your password, if they say they're from Google or Microsoft or Amazon, why are they asking for your password? So they can log in as you. Remember, those are the keys to the kingdom, to your personal self, to the kingdom, to your little kingdom. So don't give it away. And then if you ever feel that something's not right about a question or a comment, call a trusted family member. There's no shame in sending a quick text. Take a picture of the screen and say, "Hey, Johnny, is this email okay? Hey, Jose, does this look okay?" And see what your trusted family member says. Never share a pin. So this is you'll see this in some of the scam videos online. It's a pretty interesting way to hack your account. But if somebody asks for a pin confirmation, they're most likely doing the following. Let me show you. So I drew up this little graphic to kind of illustrate. Here's the bad guy on the left hand side, the scammer. They call you and they say, "Hey, there's a problem with your computer. We're from Microsoft and we really care about your security." "Oh no, I don't want to do to I don't know what to do. Can you fix my computer?" And the bad guy says, "Sure, I'm gonna send you a pin to confirm who you are." Granted, they called you, right? So shouldn't they know who you are? Okay. They send a password request, but not to you. They actually are sending a password reset request. Um, I spelled reset wrong, but you get the idea. To the account that they're targeting. That account then sends you the pin. So now you get a pin on your screen that only you are supposed to use. I received the pin from, say, X, from Facebook or Google, whatever. Can you please read it back to me? Oh, sure. Here you go. My pin is 224000. Now they log in to Facebook or Google or whatever and change the password. You've now lost access to your account. You never ever give away your pin. Okay? If anybody ever calls to confirm a pin, don't. The only time you should confirm a PIN is, for example, when I called Verizon for help, I made an outbound call to Verizon. They then asked me to confirm who I was. That's when I confirmed the PIN. Uh, but not when you're getting an inbound call. That's ridiculous. And never call a phone number that you don't trust. If it popped up on the screen on your computer, if it came in through email, and at the bottom it says, if you have trouble with this invoice, call this number. Don't. You look up the company, and it has to be somebody you trust and had a previous relationship with. And if in doubt, if your gut, leverage all the instincts inside of you. If you have even a tiny bit of doubt, just walk away. Just literally stop, get up, maybe go get a drink of water, and stop and think, and maybe ask for help. Contact a family member, but just stop. And then look up, has anyone else heard of it? I mean, if you get a brand new scam, um, something that I've not covered, maybe not even covered in YouTube, but somebody gets really creative, and you're the first, just look it up. Call your cousin Jose or your niece Vivian, um, and ask them, what do you think of this? And see what they think. And if you have a security pro in your family, great. Contact them first. If you're not the very first, just Google it or DuckDuckGo it. Do you use your favorite search engine and look it up with the word, whatever it is, and the word scam behind it, and see what you get. And never log into your online bank when someone's watching. You shouldn't do it in the physical world where somebody's looking over your shoulder, watching you type in your password. And you shouldn't do it if somebody's connected via remote desktop and on your computer watching you do stuff. That's just creepy. And it's just not safe cyber hygiene. And again, never click on unsolicited links to banks or online resources that have financial or data value. And really stop and think when you get nervous, when something doesn't feel right, you'll know. And kind of a rule to live by on the internet, if you don't pay for the product, you are the product. And I thank you for attending this session. Hope you've enjoyed it. If there's any questions, please put them in the comments. If you like the presentation, please click the like button and share with your friends and family. Again, thank you and have a nice day.